Roman Reigns walked into 2020 carrying the heavy burden of a universally rejected babyface run. Despite years of mandatory pushes and top-tier positioning, the audience simply refused to buy into the character. The creative direction felt forced, and pushing the issue only accelerated the decline. Then came the turning point at SummerSlam on August 23, 2020. After Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman battered each other for the Universal Championship, the arena went dark. Reigns returned from a 5-month hiatus and didn't just celebrate with the winner. He ruthlessly decimated both men, planting Strowman with a vicious spear that instantly shifted the entire atmosphere. When the turn happened, the crowd reaction metrics exploded. The pop for that spear was a release of years of built-up frustration, transforming the arena's energy from apathy to electric hostility. Rather than a heroic rescue, it was a calculated, brutal assault that finally gave the crowd the compelling villain they actually wanted to watch. The immediate fallout on the following Friday Night SmackDown cemented this new trajectory. Paul Heyman officially aligned himself with Reigns, wiping away any doubt about his intentions before taking the Universal Championship in quick fashion at the Payback pay-per-view. This was far more than a standard heel turn. It represented a complete teardown of a failing babyface gimmick, replacing it with an authoritative presence that demanded undivided attention. By abandoning the forced heroics, Reigns successfully rebuilt his entire legacy from scratch, laying the essential groundwork for a historic faction and a multi-year championship reign that would redefine the modern era of professional wrestling. Vince McMahon was initially hesitant to scrap the established babyface run, highlighting the massive creative risk involved. As Paul Heyman revealed in an interview with Chris Van Vliet, when he first pitched the concept, Vince asked, "Really? You want to call him the Tribal Chief?" McMahon preferred the safer route, with Heyman recalling Vince saying, "Oh, the big dog, Roman Reigns." Heyman knew he couldn't just be an advocate like he was for Brock Lesnar. Acting as the primary creative architect, Heyman recognized that Reigns needed time to develop. He explained, "This is a whole new character. This is a whole new persona, and he couldn't have played this persona earlier because he was too young to do it. He needed to weather the storms to become the Tribal Chief." Fans watched him grow from a young prospect, and he finally matured into the role under Heyman's guidance. Vince McMahon was initially reluctant to move away from Roman Reigns' established big dog persona when the idea was first presented. Yet comparing the two highlights a dramatic shift in crowd reception, showing how abandoning the heavily pushed babyface role led to critical acclaim. The useful similarity is that both characters served as the absolute focal point of the main event scene. The limit of this comparison is that the big dog was a traditional heroic babyface, while the Tribal Chief is a psychologically complex villain. Their in-ring storytelling mechanics and promo styles are fundamentally opposed, shifting from energetic sprints to methodical control. Pairing Heyman's audio with contrasting clips of Reigns' early dominance versus his slow, deliberate Tribal Chief walk perfectly illustrates this. By visually juxtaposing the high-energy Superman punch of his past with the cold spear of his present, the video emphasizes the reinvention. This 2020 evolution completely shifted his reception, proving the right creative architecture can turn a rejected babyface into a compelling villain. The character shift was complete, but a villain needs a kingdom to rule. That kingdom became the Bloodline, officially formed in July 2021, following a bitter feud between Roman Reigns and the Usos, with Paul Heyman stepping in to manage the faction. As the screen cuts to Jey and Jimmy Uso, the emotional weight of this alliance becomes clear. This wasn't just a standard stable built for merchandising. It relied on real-world Anoa'i family dynamics, transforming a typical angle into deeply personal storytelling that resonated far beyond the ring. The foundation of this faction rests on a single devastating causal link. Jey Uso was forced to submit to Roman Reigns to save his injured brother Jimmy. The visuals emphasize Jey's raw distress during this submission, showing a man backed into a corner where family loyalty outweighed his pride. That internal conflict violently spilled into the ring. Jey officially cemented his alignment with Reigns and turned heel after a brutal attack on Daniel Bryan. The camera lingers on the super kick to Bryan's jaw, marking the exact moment Jey's babyface run was permanently buried. Paul Heyman captured the essence of this dynamic during an Insight with Chris Van Vliet interview, describing the required mindset. "I will light myself on fire for you, my tribal chief, to protect you from the flames. For you are my tribal chief, and I acknowledge you." By weaponizing their actual bloodline and blurring the lines between scripted fiction and real family trauma, WWE built an inescapable psychological trap that redefined the main event scene and set the stage for years of dominant storytelling. That psychological trap was anchored by a championship run of historic proportions. Roman Reigns held the Universal Championship for 1,028 days, securing the fourth longest World Championship reign in WWE history. From April 2022 until April 2024, Reigns was promoted as the undisputed WWE Universal Champion, simultaneously holding both the WWE and Universal Championships. This multi-year championship reign was the direct cause for the formation and sustained dominance of the Bloodline faction. Holding the gold gave the group unmatched narrative leverage, allowing creative to play the long game. Instead of burning through storylines in a few months, the length of the reign allowed for slow-burn storytelling, elevating the faction into a multi-year juggernaut. As the months turned into years, championship highlight reels showed a distinct evolution in Reigns' in-ring psychology. His approach evolved from wrestling to prove he was the guy to wrestling to remind everyone who owned the place. Crowd reaction metrics reflected this shift, transforming from initial rejection to a begrudging, electric acknowledgement of his absolute authority. Every successful title defense added another layer to the faction's mythology. The booking decisions during this period prioritized protecting the championship's prestige over quick pop-ups, ensuring that every challenger felt like a legitimate threat to the empire rather than a mere speed bump. The title was the gravitational center that kept the entire faction's dominance in orbit. By stretching the reign across multiple eras of challengers, WWE built an inescapable narrative weight, demonstrating that a reign this long doesn't just sustain a character, it builds an empire. The strongest counterargument to Roman Reigns' redemption arc is that he was always a highly capable main eventer. Critics argue his initial babyface failure was purely a product of poor WWE booking and a stubborn audience, rather than a necessary crucible for professional growth. They point to his in-ring ability and microphone skills as evidence that the talent was always there, just mismanaged by the creative team. From this perspective, the tribal chief persona was merely a late career correction, a creative band-aid designed to salvage a ruined character rather than a masterful, organic evolution. However, the psychological depth of the Bloodline storyline completely dismantles that theory. A simple creative band-aid does not require years of meticulous character consistency, nor does it generate the profound emotional climax we witnessed with Jey Uso. Jey served as the secondary focal point of the faction, and his emotional arc provided the ultimate climax to the group's narrative. His eventual betrayal went far beyond a shocking swerve for television ratings. It was the tragic culmination of a deeply personal psychological war. When Jey finally broke under the pressure, his promo work and visceral in-ring reactions carried a dramatic weight that a superficial character reboot could never achieve. The tears, the hesitation, and the ultimate explosion of frustration showcased a character consistency that elevated the entire program. This internal civil war defined the peak dramatic stakes of Reigns' villainous run, transforming a standard faction dominance angle into a Shakespearean family tragedy. It demonstrated that the tribal chief was not just a convenient mask, but a fully realized, psychologically complex antagonist whose absolute demand for devotion eventually forced his own family to fracture. The Band-Aid theory ignores the foundational storytelling required to make the eventual tear so emotionally devastating. You cannot fake that level of investment, and the crowd's explosive reaction to Jey's defiance confirmed this evolution was anything but a superficial fix. Looking ahead, the fallout from this explosive betrayal is far from over. Jey Uso is scheduled to team with Jimmy Uso against Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa in a Bloodline Civil War tag team match at WWE Money in the Bank. We must include the fact-check warning that this scheduled match is subject to change based on real-world injury reports or last-minute creative rewrites. As a projection, this Bloodline Civil War could further redefine the faction's legacy by permanently fracturing the Anoa'i family dynamics on screen and reshaping the main event scene for the foreseeable future. Watching the match clips of the brothers staring down, paired with the PPV name and arena context overlaid on screen, you see a storyline that consumed the roster and elevated the main event picture. The emotional stakes are boiling, and a definitive clash between brothers will cement this era as a watershed moment for WWE storytelling, showcasing how real-world family dynamics translate into unparalleled drama. Ultimately, by abandoning the universally rejected big dog persona, Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman engineered a masterclass in character evolution. They rebuilt his entire legacy from scratch, transforming a heavily pushed babyface into the most compelling villain in modern wrestling history by leaning into psychological depth and nuanced mic work rather than just physical dominance. As we conclude with visuals of the fractured Bloodline members standing on opposite sides of the ring, emphasizing the lasting consequences of this narrative on WWE's modern creative direction, the true scale of this monumental achievement finally becomes clear. It is a character arc that will dictate booking philosophy for years to come, showing that patience and long-term storytelling can completely reverse fan perception and elevate the entire product to unprecedented new heights of critical acclaim.